Okay, welcome to Sorare Scouting. If you don't know what this is basically where I review, different players on Sorare that I think would be valuable, can, make you money or add utility to your team. In this episode, we're going to be looking at Champion Europe. If you don't know, Champion Europe is basically the top 5 leagues in Europe. It's based on, not really sure what it's based on to be fair, but it's basically the Premier League, Serie A, Bundesliga, the French League, and the German League. All I'm going to be doing is looking at Sorare data. If you don't know, you can just go to Scout, Player Rankings, and then do your different filters. So Champion Europe, I like looking at last 40. I've basically done that and exported it into an Excel version, which I think is a lot more helpful, and it just adds a bit more value to kind of Sorare data. So you can see it here. I've already added some filters just when I was playing about before. But if you were to filter by the last 40, it would show you basically what have I put in? Sorry, I've got a filter here just where you can filter by different costs. So here I've put players less than £500 in rare. You'll see that I've only included rare prices, and that's because if you flick back to Sorare data, they actually only have a 1 month average for rares, super rares, and uniques at the moment. So we're still waiting to add limited version to that. So basically, just take 15%, and that should be a good, just a reasonable estimate of what the card will cost. This is kind of different for me. I don't do many videos like this, but the goal is to get you kind of inside my head of how I think on Sorare. I've been relatively successful with this method so far. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. There is obviously much deeper statistical analysis you can do, but not everyone's got the time for that. And what this does is just filter out players that, aren't good value, and does, highlight players that are good value. So that's what we're going to be doing, and it's just going to be a little talk through really. So, to know who you want to buy is very difficult. For me to know who you want to buy is very difficult because everyone has, different preferences, or what leagues they're in, who they like and who they dislike, how much money can they spend. It's completely different. So basically, I'm going to be showing you how I make my decisions, and you can edit that to whether you like that team, you like that player, and think about it that way. So in order to start, we're going to have to look at my teams. I've said how important it is to lay out your teams in clear ways. I've even got this little side piece where it's like project players where they're really young, when they're not going to be putting up good at SO5 scores, but they might be collectible, or they might be good long-term holds. So yeah, just try and do something similar to this. There's no real Excel here, it's just data input. So you can see my D4 teams, they kind of need slotted out a little bit. I don't have a keeper, so I'm actually conglomerating, I'm not sure if that works, but I'm putting them together basically, and then we're stuck on the D5 team. So under 23 is doing quite well. I came 16th out of 2,000 this week, so very successful for me. If you hadn't seen, I'll actually show you because I'm very excited. I got Rodrigo De Paul. Here he is. So about 300 quid worth of player. Great success. So yeah, just going to look to kind of build on that in that regard. And Champion Europe, you'll see there's a big hole. I have sold Casemiro. He's who was there, so I'm actually going to be swapping in Orlean when he needs to. He has a higher average, but that means I either need a champion, an under 23s midfielder, or a Champion Europe midfielder. And in this case, I'm going to be looking at Champion Europe midfielders. It's that simple basically. So what you do, just filter out who you'd want. In this case, it'd be Champion Europe midfielders. Now, I will say going forward, a lot of you will say, can I have this spreadsheet? And last time I did offer it out and said, anyone that wants it, contact me. And that's great. People contact me on Twitter, people contact me on Instagram, people contact me on Discord, people contact me in the YouTube comments. It got really messy. So I'm going to really streamline this. And I will say, please do follow me on Twitter. Please do subscribe. But if you want to get this spreadsheet sent to you, if you watch the video in the first 7 days, only say this because I still have people asking me for the old spreadsheet, and it's like months later, and I'm like, oh God, I've got to find it in here and try and get it out for them. So if you're watching it in the first week, maybe week and a half, I'm feeling nice, go on Discord, go to the Sorare Discord. You can search in general for my name, SimplyAlex. I've posted quite a lot of things in there. You can click my name, it'll then put you in a DM with me. However you normally DM people, it's basically how you'll find me, and just say, right, I want the spreadsheet, and I'll just attach it to you. I don't think you can attach attachments on Twitter, and I don't think, don't really want to give out my personal email to everyone. I don't want people in the comments giving me theirs. So overall, real simple, just message me on Discord and I'll send it to you. Just try and make it in a reasonable time frame, please. So, looking at the last four, you see all these big performers. People everyone knows, you know, Kimmich, Modric, De Bruyne. They're not for everyone. And at this stage, they're really not for me. If you're looking at, you know, my team, I've got Messi, Vinicius Jr., Koundé, Bono. It's a really expensive team, so I kind of need to bring that average down a little bit. So, you know, what I'm going to be doing is probably looking at people, and you can do this too, is just say, I want someone that's less than, maybe start at 800 quid. Is that a bit expensive? A bit cheap? Let's make it 1,000 to start, because, you know, at least actually, we'll make it 1,200. It doesn't weed, you know, I can then go manually and weed out people I don't want on top of that. So we're going to be working our way through this list. Obviously, I want a top performing player. My goal is to win a star rare, or, you know, which is basically top 10, even better, getting a podium, get, you know, 500 quid worth of EVE and a star rare, the dream. So going for it, Joanne Cuadrado of Juventus. So age 33 isn't great. His scores are unbelievable, but he's a bit of a rotation risk for me. I just don't really like him that much. Like I said, different people might find him useful, but for me, not so much. Luka Modric, right, brilliant player. I feel he's starting to get weeded out of the Real Madrid team now. He's just getting to that age where it's like, thank you, Luka, but we're moving on. So he's not really someone that I'm looking for. In my SO5, in my whole gallery, I try and average the age down as much as possible, because you should have these card utilities for the rest of your life, really, or for the rest of however long the game is profitable and still being used. So, you know, the younger they are, the more years you get, and people do really underestimate that value if you are bullish on this game. If you think it's like a year of quick flips, right, get someone like Dimitri Payet, unbelievable player. And just looking at his averages here, he's averaging 60, with a last 5 of 46, and I have my own knowledge of this. Obviously, a lot of the players are the best in the world, so I know about them. So Danny Pereiro has just been injured. He's coming back from injury. He's getting minutes again. So, you know, after a long injury, you don't just put them in for 90. You normally weed them in with like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 off the bench straight in, and he's back to basically his best now. So for £600, if you look through the list, right, you got someone like Lucas Vazquez, great performer, but doesn't really play for Real Madrid. And under him, you're getting pretty expensive until you get to someone like Sergio Busquets, which is definitely getting on a bit in a Barcelona team that's struggling. So Danny Pereiro is great value if anyone's wanting him. Take an interest. You could actually take an interest in the decisive versus the all-round score. I look at last 40. Basically, I think last 40 is a good average of how the player's playing. You just need to manually adjust that up and down depending on how the club's going to play this season. Does the manager favour the player? Is he on good form or bad form? Last 5 is just too short. Last 15 is a good kind of middle ground, but you know, that is still too biased, a good run of form basically. So that's why I look at last 40. So decisive actions 39. That's very high relative to the rest of the list. Keep in mind these are the best performers. So he does get assists and goals quite a bit. But really solid all round. So this is kind of, I haven't discussed before, but in my head I think of someone that is an anchor in midfield that is going to score you 50 to 60s all the time, and that's basically what Casemiro was for me. He was slightly underperforming, and that's kind of one of the reasons I sold him. And I want a bit more of an explosive player that can go out and get hundreds all the time. I think Danny Pereiro's got the potential to get 100, so he's definitely a good buy if you wanted to get involved, or a fair buy, I'd say. But let's look at the rest of the list. What you want to do with these players is basically move them into a separate spreadsheet or a separate tab. That's what I've done here. So I've done a bit before, obviously, while I was making a spreadsheet. So I moved in Danny Pereiro, as you can see here. Someone like Carlos Soler, he's brilliant, but it looks like I've just filled him out. Yeah, so he's 1.2k. He's not basically a diamond in the rough. He is a well-known diamond. Great value if you think, you know, you can sit on someone for that long and have a really competitive team. Recommend, but for me, I'm looking at a D5 limited team here, and he doesn't have a D5 card. I think he missed, you know, picture day, so going to be a while till we see his cards. So moving down, Gundagon, great player, great scores, rotation risk. Everyone knows Man City and Pep. He likes to swap teams like every weekend. It's so hard to predict. It's basically a roulette at this stage. And is that something I want in SO5? Not in my team. I know a lot of you will. You'll be happy to take that risk where, you know, scores outweigh the risk. But if you look at my team, they're all kind of must start. They all are the best in their position. So, you know, if the best team's out, they'll play. So, not someone I'm looking at. Rodrigo De Paul. This is where you can look at the last 5 and you say, okay, so his last 40 is 60. He's only averaging 50 at the moment. What's gone on here? So he's obviously moved clubs to a not much harder league, but it's harder to fight for positions in that Atletico midfield. It rotates a fair amount, so I'm not going to be touching him. He's one to watch for me. If I'm watching a couple of Atletico games, I keep my eye on him, but rotating too much. Milinkovic-Savic, he's very good. He's young. He's in the national team. That's one point I haven't mentioned. Do they play national football? Do they play Champions League football? Someone like Pereiro, he'll be cheaper because I don't think Valencia have fixtures. I need to check that. But yeah, Milinkovic-Savic definitely will be involved in all of those, which is good. 1.1k right on the top end of the filters. So, with a last 40 average of 50, this is when you kind of come back to the basic Sorare data and say, right, Savic. Playing for Lazio. How are Lazio playing this season? They're playing all right. They got beaten their last game. What happened last game? He played 58 minutes and got subbed off, so it obviously wasn't a great performance. Did they win that? I'm not sure. Either way, a last 30 here. He's coming off the bench, and it doesn't look like he was injured, so for whatever reason, I'm not sure he's starting for Lazio at the moment. So, plus I know Lazio haven't had the best of starts this season in Serie A. So, definitely one to consider for others. But for me, I'm just going to play it safe for now and avoid. Lazio do like to score a lot of goals, so long term could be good. Spoke about Busquets before, I think, just getting on a little bit. Bad Barcelona side that will be rotated a lot. New manager potentially. Not for me. Casemiro, he is great value. He's great value, and I sold him. He's just not. I'm not a Real Madrid fan. I know I've got Vinicius Jr., but it's just, cheering on Madrid was hard for me. With a player that's underperforming, I needed to raise some money. He had to go. So, yeah, don't be afraid to pick him up. Busio, I wouldn't advise. He's just moved from the MLS. It's a big step up. At the moment, it looks like he's doing well. And other people who watch the MLS more will have better knowledge of, is he going to make it? For me, it's an avoid. Badge here, he's actually really solid. So you got to keep in mind he's on the top end of the age barrier, so probably getting worse. But very steady defender. If any of you are really budget players, once his card's released in a limited version, it could be unbelievable for you. If you're one of those that's not necessarily a budget player, but are a budget player D4 like myself, right? Badge is a great option for Champion Europe. Putting up great scores. But for me, he hasn't got a limited card, probably not who I'm looking for now. Koke, very solid player all round. It's a very competitive Atletico Madrid team at the moment, especially in midfield. And, 29, just not someone I'm looking for, sorry. Fabian Ruiz, so he's a really interesting card because he's averaging 79.80. It's basically the highest in the list. So the best midfielder in current form. He's basically on hot form. He's not the most expensive in the list. He is higher end. So, let's have a deep dive into him, basically. So, red data, and just see, how are Napoli performing. I'm pretty sure they lost their last game, or actually they won it late, didn't they? 2-1. So, he put in a 48, which is well below of average. And before that, he played 90 minutes and got 35. He does have this explosive potential of 90s and 100s. He plays, 85% of the last 40 games. He's obviously a guaranteed star. I know he kind of plays midfield. I think it's more box to box, if anything, more defensive. So, definitely someone I'm interested in. I think he's good value here. So, 38 decisive and an all-round score of 22. That is really solid. Basically just means, all rounds, what you do without decisive actions. Decisive actions, what you do with decisive actions. Those being goals, assists, goal line clearances, last man tackles, things like that. So, yeah, that's quite an interesting one for me. Would definitely add him to the next page if I haven't already. So, I'm not going to fill this in for you guys now, but you can basically see what's going on. And what I would add here is a separate list of what's his limited price. I know he doesn't have one at the moment, but all of these cards, what is a limited price? Compare that as a percentage of their rare price and see if it's in that kind of 10 to 20%. If it's above 20%, I would be patient and say that it probably won't last that long, or if it does, you're overpaying where you can get better value elsewhere, basically. So yeah, keep that in mind. With these limited cards, they have gone up a lot, and they're not necessarily reflective of their rares. If you have enough price, if, say, a limited card is 30% of its rare price, if you have enough money, get the rare. I would say, as a general rule of thumb, don't take this as an investment advice or anything stupid like that. Luis Alberto, he's really solid for, is it Lazio or Napoli? I always get them confused. I think it's Lazio. Yeah, I'm going to have to check that, aren't I? Lazio, of course. So he is really solid, but looking like he's getting less minutes. Yeah, so overall, you can see here, he's kind of playing 60s. And don't get me wrong, you can do a lot in 60 minutes, where you used to get kind of 90 minutes. Yeah, so that throws me off a lot. Like, if they're cutting his minutes, that means someone else is obviously looking to make an impact in the team. If I wasn't doing this video, I'd obviously deep dive to look who that is, rate them as a player, see how it's going. But overall, Lazio, again, not performing that well. Don't particularly like Lazio as a team. So, yeah, just one I'll be avoiding. Lokonga, he's at Arsenal now, under 21s. Good if you could, sit on him for a while, but not who I'm looking for. He's only playing when, Thomas Partey isn't playing. So, yeah. Calhanoglu, interesting one. So, he got a move to Inter Milan. What that means is that it's obviously difficult. You don't adjust immediately to a team. You've seen that with players like, everyone really. It's very hard to hit the ground running at a team. So 47 average, he would be one to watch. So, if you've got some spare time, you see Inter Milan have a fun game that you want to watch, check out Calhanoglu and say, why is he not starting? He's coming off the bench. Is he making an impact? Is he one kind of good game away from being a starter? It's one of those things. So £444, I would monitor that and just say, right, he's on the watch list. Dimitri Payet, he's been on big form recently. I've seen, right at the leaderboards, a lot of people have had him, and that's probably pushed his price up. So, long term, and this is where the spreadsheet really helps, right? Everyone's picking up Dimitri Payet, right? But who would you rather have? Long term, Calhanoglu has a better kind of scoring ratio. What's that? 7 years younger. What I'm trying to say is I would go for Calhanoglu over Payet long term. I'm really bullish on the platform for a few years now. So I think Dimitri might outscore him in the short term. Long term, Calhanoglu will have better scores and better value hold. So I'd avoid that. Oh, Lucas Paqueta. I really like this guy. I didn't actually realise he was so cheap. So they do have limited cards. He's someone I'd definitely add to my list because he's still eligible for the 23s. So under 23s, that is. So yes, he's 24, but I think the cutoff is the 1st of July, right? And I think before the 1st of July, he's still 23, so that's good. Frank Kesey, so he's really solid scorer all round. So if you're looking for someone that's basically putting out scores and anchoring the team, as I said before, someone that's always solid, right, but won't really explode too much, that's probably Frank Kesey. I don't know why he's putting up such low scores recently. Has he been dropped, come back from an injury? I need to look more into it. It looks like he's not getting enough minutes, so we need to see about that. But yeah, again, definitely one to watch. In this position, I don't think Kesey can play the under-23s, so similar price, I'd probably take Pasquetta. I know there is a bit of rotation because Shirky doesn't play for Lyon, right? And I know a lot of people on SO5 want him to play, and he did play at the start of the season. So I went Lucas Paqueta. But you come here for the mispronunciation of names. I know you do. So whichever one it is, he did get dropped. It looks like he's solid again playing. So I would pick him up if I had enough money in the bank. What I'm basically trying to do now is limit all these players down, or note all these players down, and compare them in a table and just make the decision. So the best thing with this is that I can be really patient with it because I don't need a player to hit the ground running. I can basically put Orlean Tchouameni into my Champion Europe team and drop Camavinga into the under-23s. Both get a couple of Orlean is supposed to be better than Casemiro on the last 5 averages, and Camavinga is getting more and more minutes as it is. He actually replaced Casemiro, so that's an interesting one. So then I could just cheer on Camavinga to do well. So overall, this is kind of how I look at it. I then kind of look at the prices and compare, long term. I really think someone like Marco Verratti is a good play because he averages 60. In this PSG team, do I think they'll score more SO5 points this year? Yes, I probably do. I think they're a better outfit. Does someone like, let's say Casemiro, do I think he will outscore his average of 60? I think his average is going to be brought down as it is now, which is, you know, another reason I sold him. Why? Real Madrid aren't as good as they were. La Liga's got a little bit harder for Barca and Real, as you've seen. They've really struggled, especially in the Champions League. They've, you know, embarrassing defeats, both of them really. Gundagon, not someone I'm looking to consider, but yeah, you can basically just add little explanations here just to further add what you think, as well as, you know, ratio of limited to rare price. I can be patient, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go look on the market now and kind of see Danny Pereiro, what kind of price is he going for? Is it worth putting him in for a kind of short-term wins? I'll look at their fixtures in the short term. It's not something I usually do. Usually, you know, I ignore the short-term fixtures and just think long-term, because Marco Verratti is definitely my top pick right now, but I don't really want to expand that much money on a midfielder when my team's already so expensive and they haven't been winning me rewards. Someone like, you know, Ruiz we've just found now, so he's now added into the mix, and he's kind of a middleman. He's right between them in terms of prices. So when I look at the ratio of rare to limited, if his is much lower, if his is 12%, 15%, he hasn't actually got a card yet, just so everyone knows, but when that comes out, 12, 15%, right, snap that up, because I know Verratti's probably closer to 20%. Haven't looked at Pereiro's too much. So yeah, just kind of do these own, you know, simulations in your head, adjust the last 40 averages to, is he going to have a better season than he did last year? Someone like Solar, I'm really interested in, because, you know, as he gets older, every season he should technically get better and be a better SO5 scorer until he's about, I don't know, 30, 32. You can argue about that in the comments, but yeah, he's someone that's really interesting, but he's not a diamond in the rough at all. He is a 1.2k player. So yeah, you can get one of the best teams midfielders in the world, really. So who's still an up and coming himself, only 28. But look, this is the fun of SO5. This is the fun of So Rare. Everyone has their own opinion. There's no one way to play it. There is no right answer. Do what you think's best, and if it is working for you, repeat it. If it's not working for you, change it completely. That's kind of what I'm doing with Casemiro. He didn't work for me. We'll make a change and see how it goes. Again, just want to reiterate, it is important to be kind of patient at this time, where we're waiting for the things to be finalised. I'll finally just say, if you did like this episode, it's a little bit different. I don't do too many of these. Please let me know. And even if you didn't like it, just say, you know, not some of your best things. I much prefer your So Rare journeys or something like that, because it's a little bit different for me. Overall, thanks for listening. And yeah, please subscribe, like, share it to your friends. You know, do whatever can get it out there. You know, I do put a bit of effort into these. So yeah, all the best. Thanks a lot for watching. Cheers.